first off, I'll do the introduction here. We have Gillian,
Cool.
DiMaria, and I'm Joe with the Canadian Strength and Conditioning Association. Just continuing on our series of Pathway to the Pros. And Gillian has been nice enough to give us some time out of her super busy schedule. So, welcome, Gillian.
Thank you.
I'd like to highlight too that Gillian is another Canadian coach doing awesome things, and we'll get started right off the bat if you're ready to go.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So, Joe, with regards to your career path, you started out at Brock as like an undergrad or intern, I guess you can say. Um, and you were there for how long did you do that? 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
4 years. And then you were with us at UBC for 2 years
hmm
as a graduate assistant and through COVID, which is fun. So that added to the enjoyment of everything. And then you were at Toronto Metropolitan for 2 years
Yeah, two
as
years.
an assistant S&C coach there, and
hmm
just recently with the is it Rip City Remix in Portland?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
in NBA G League now, and you got something else to share?
Yeah, I just took a position with the Los Angeles Sparks in the WNBA, so
Awesome,
that's where I am now.
amazing. Thanks for not
Yeah.
wearing that. You don't have the Sparks kit yet, I see.
No, and I literally just got back from work and I was wearing it and I'm like, oh, I don't know if yeah, whatever. We're
Well,
going
hopefully,
Rip City today.
okay. Hopefully, no surprises when this comes out then for anybody. So,
No, it'll be fine.
um, So, with your experiences starting at Brock, can you just give us a little bit about like some of the experiences that really helped shape where you are now from like maybe from each stage, if there's like one or two big key learning areas that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think when I got to Brock, I didn't even know what a strength and conditioning coach was. Like it was just, I got into kinesiology thinking that I wanted to do physiotherapy. I think like all kin students think they want to do. And this opportunity kind of came at the perfect time. Steve Lidzone had just gotten to Brock at the time of my first year. So it kind of all happened at the perfect time. And I started that right away in my first year of university. And I think those 4 years was really just about trying as many new things as I possibly could. And I think that, Vicky Bendis and Steve Lidstone, Dave McDowell were all the three coaches that were working there at the time. I think they really ingrained that in us and gave us a lot of different opportunities to volunteer and get exposure to different sports, and that was really the biggest thing. I worked with wrestling, cheerleading, soccer, hockey, basketball. I was all over the place, and that was, I think, a really big catalyst to what made me love it so much and what made me so sure that I wanted to pursue a career in this field. And yeah, in my third year, I took that summer and came out and hung out with you and hung out with the Whitecaps a little bit for the summer just to get, again, another experience under my belt and be super, super sure that I wanted to go down this path. Because if there was one thing was for sure was that nobody was shy about how hard it was going to be. And I think everyone was super honest that it was going to be a grind and, not everybody gets to fulfill their aspirations in this environment. So yeah, I wanted to be super sure it's what I wanted to do. So after those 4 years, and after spending the summer with you, I knew I wanted to come back to UBC and finish out that grad assistantship. And I think the biggest difference, other than being around different people, the biggest difference from Brock to UBC was the increase in responsibility. And so working with women's soccer and having a little bit of a bigger role with them, as well as working with football and basketball and whatever other sports I worked with. I can't even remember.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
lot. We have 25
it,
teams, so it's never ending.
yeah, literally. But yeah, it was just every year I was allowed to take on a little bit more, a little bit more. And I think, when I'm explaining to people, especially outside of Canada, when I'm explaining to people what my progression was in this industry, I think of it as like a very traditional way because, I started kind of from the bottom and I did all of those, grueling hours of intern work and then got to have a little bit more um, autonomy during the graduate assistantship. And it kind of set me right up for taking my first role at TMU. So I think by that point, I was super sure and ready, and I knew that I could lead my own teams and do my own programming and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the job at TMU it really just felt like another internship, but I was getting paid,
Perfect.
which was a fun thing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like that was really, I think what I took from that was the administrative work and learning how to be a part of a team and, all the things that go on outside of the gym and outside of kind of our little bubble. And I think that it really gave me a good perspective on how many people have influence and how much goes into making the day-to-day work. Um, and yeah, I felt like at that time, after 2 years at TMU, I felt I really had a grasp on the collegiate level and what it took to run a successful program in U Sport after being at three different schools and having kind of that perspective. And yeah, I really wanted to branch out again. I feel like it happens like every 2 years for me. I'm like, okay, now I want to do something new. And we are in such a fun industry to make that happen. Like there's so many different ways to do what we do. But I knew, and I always kind of thought back to my experience with the Whitecaps. It was my only kind of pro experience prior to what I'm doing now. And I think the team there did such an amazing job at utilizing their resources. And, you know, when you're in the pros, everything is available to you and it's, all set out in front of you and you really just have to be a coach. So I was kind of hankering for that environment again. And yeah, there was a lot of things that happened in between
Yeah.
TMU and getting the position in Portland. So
Visas are
um
always easy to deal with too, right?
yeah, like we can talk more in depth about that, but to answer your question, that was even a learning experience in itself. Like that obviously was a massive part of my journey and going through interviews and the rejection and all of that, and then finally being able to land, that role with Rip City with the Portland Trail Blazers. Um, Obviously extremely rewarding, but those 5 months definitely taught me a lot about, how I view myself as a coach and how my job plays a role in my identity as a person. And, like being a young professional, it's hard when you're coming up in your career and there's so much to do and so little time and everything just happens so fast you kind of lose yourself a little bit. So it was nice, as much as the rejection hurt my ego. It definitely was nice to get a little bit of a break and figure out what I enjoy doing outside of my job, to then come back into it and do exactly what I said I wanted to do and work in a professional environment and be that point person for the team. I was the only strength coach with the G League team, so I was really able to do what I wanted to do, obviously under the direction of the Portland Trailblazers H&P team, but I was really able to have a lot of autonomy during that season. And again, nearing the end of that season, it was only a 6 month contract, so I didn't really have the option to stay. But nearing the end of that contract, I had worked with a couple colleagues that had worked in the W before, and being surrounded by men as a female strength coach, like it really made me want to be around women again. And all these W jobs kept popping up,
Yeah.
and yeah, the Sparks job popped up, and I hopped on it, and it was a lengthy interview process, but yeah, it worked out and I'm here now and yeah, excited to see what I can learn from this one.
I've got about 390 follow-up questions here, so
Nice.
I'm just going to throw them at you. And
Yeah.
I'm going to start with rejection because, as we mentioned before I started the recording, um, this is a part of the industry. Like there's no one's landing their dream job right out of university, let
No
alone
way.
having a progressive. Like you had what 8 years there of actual solid work. Like you were with us at least 15 to 20 hours a week while doing personal
Hmm.
training, Whitecaps, or other, contracts here and there as well. So you've
Hmm.
been kind of grinding for a long time. Did that like gap where you finished with TMU and trying to sort out the visa and stuff give you a lot of time to reflect on if there's something you should like? Did you ever waver and think, I don't want to do this, this is too much, like overwhelming? Or did you think, I'm just going to keep going until I find something? Like, how was your thought process?
I don't think I ever wavered. I think that I'm so sure this is what I was meant to do. But I do think that, you know, as much as somebody could tell you about the rejection and prepare you for it from their own experiences, like nothing's gonna prepare you for it quite
Yeah.
like going through a 3 week interview process and getting the no at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
um, I think that it is just it's a part of every industry, but I think
Yep.
for us, especially in sports, everybody wants our jobs, and it's always going to be that way, and sports is always going to be a really enticing environment to be in, and it that will never change. So I think all we can do is handle it the best way we can handle it, and like be as smart as possible about it, because you lose a job and you never know kind of when that next one's going to come up. Um,
And that's where
and
it's different, right? Like that's
for
where it's
sure.
very different than other jobs where, and as you know, I run a lot of parallels to our athlete and coach development. And,
Mhm.
um, you're in a professional league where like a guy can be cut tomorrow for performance
Yeah.
issues, right? But
Mhm.
conversely, could be cut just because it doesn't fit into the system, like could play on the team.
Totally.
Well, there's no difference. You get a new head coach next year. No, I want to bring my staff in. I want to do this. You've done nothing wrong. And so
Totally.
it's definitely, that's a big difference for sure from the jump from university sport to pro sport, right? Where the turnover is
Mhm.
so vast.
Huge, huge. And honestly, it was an interesting experience. In the G League specifically, there's a lot of room for promotion. So you could sign a G League standard contract or a two-way contract, NBA standard. There's a lot of flux. And there was a point in the season where a lot of that was happening and guys were getting promoted. And, you see your athletes go through that process of, oh, I'm not getting what I want. I'm not signing this contract, or these guys aren't calling me and whatnot. And there's just so much parallel there. Obviously, they're in a different tax bracket, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of parallel. Like we go through the same thing, and it's just as volatile and it's just as um unpredictable, I think, as being an athlete yourself, and being able to relate to them in that way, and have that commonality, I think was interesting. And it was really the first time that I had kind of thought about that, uh outside of obviously collegiate sport. But yeah, the
Yeah,
rejection is huge, and it's just something you got to push through, and you got to understand that it's a part of the process. And how are you going to help yourself get to the next step, and
totally.
yeah, take care of yourself at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, so like just while we're on the same, like when we start, like when you're in university, it's very much developmental. And like I would say the G League is, but it's not, right? Like it's not the same
Yeah.
developmental, and but like the idea is it's supposed to be a developmental league. And normally
Hmm.
as S&C coaches, we try to start with developing athletes and more general type of qualities.
Yeah.
And then as they get better, we tend to narrow our focus. So, like drawing back on your 8 years where you probably work with at least 10 to 12 different sports, do you think
Hmm.
that general, like just learning the general nuances between, like you'd work with basketball with us a little bit, you work with football, but you've seen cheerleading and all these other sports. Is there anything there that you would say was a benefit to your development as a coach early on that you're now that you're in like a narrow focused area between
Hmm.
the G League and WNBA where like you have some skills that you think carry over?
Yeah, huge. I think the biggest thing is exposure, like your exposure to different injuries and how, different athletes compensate over things, and all of that. And it's actually a question that comes up a lot because, when people ask me, "Oh, how did you get here? What did you do? Are you a big basketball person?" I'm like I played growing up, I guess. Like, I don't know. But it really is, once you have those good principles and foundations, and it was something that you focused so much on, especially for us at UBC, and definitely something that we focused on at Brock. You know, Having those principles and the foundation is really the key part of performance training and high performance training. And the only thing that changes is your population, right? And each athlete has their own nuance, and each sport has their own nuance. And to be able to have that exposure to the grander scheme of sport in general, and then to be able to kind of narrow focus into it, I think is the best way to go about it, be and it's the same thing that we teach athletes, be general before you get super specific, or that's how we train athletes,
Yeah.
train general before you get super super specific. And I think it's the same way when you're going about your progression as a coach and learning as a coach. Get exposed to as much as you possibly can, and see as much as you possibly can. See 300 athletes in a gym in one day, like, you know be in the room as much as possible and soak it in. And so when you do get into an environment that's super niche, and um, you can really dive down that rabbit hole if you want, and you have all this other experience to draw on as well. And it's definitely helped me, and I think that um, it is, yeah, a key part to why I'm in the position I'm in right now.
Was it a bit of an eye opener, Jill? Like when you go from like working with, like U sport level athletes, like we have the best that we have to offer, but like it's not like the States, obviously, where like
Yeah,
California has more people than we have in Canada, probably, or close to, as an example. So you have
literally,
like you're literally everybody you work with is an all-star, right?
for
Like
sure.
they're good enough to be in the G League. So like is that a
Yeah.
bit of an awe when you see what they can do versus like some maybe the kids you've worked with in U Sport? Was that a issue at all ever or
For sure. And like we've talked about it multiple times. I called you throughout the season
yeah,
asking questions, but um, you know, you I have all this experience in collegiate sport, and obviously Canadian athletes are just as amazing as American athletes, but um, you know, getting to the G League level and the NBA level, they're such monster athletes, and their bodies are masters at compensating and hiding problems and still being able to perform, in the top 1% of their sport. So I think something that rocked me pretty hard was like, okay, I can see something wrong, and I know that that's not doing what I want it to do, but like, how do I make a specific constraint to get this quality out of them? Or how can I expose them in a way that is targeting what I want it to target? So I really think that your problem solving skills need to be on 100 when you're in this environment. And again, I think that goes back to the what we had just talked about exposure and being around so many different athletes. Like, you see a million things in one day, um, but for me, the past 6 months, everything was different. Like,
yeah.
it was just such a different echelon of movers. And yeah, that was definitely a learning curve. And I think something that helped me, and something that I think is a massive part of my coaching process, is, getting to know the athlete and speaking with them. They're as much as experts on their bodies as we are kind of in the weight room. So being able to work with them and get their feedback and use that to my advantage, I think was a way that I found to get around that problem. But again, I'm not even a year into this environment. I think it's just going to be, continuing to learn and building on each opportunity and building on each um, example, really, to be able to continue to problem solve and help these top 1%ers, get even better than they already are.
While we're on a million tangents, I'm gonna keep going on this. Do you
Okay.
Okay, so now you're dealing with people who've, I mean, they're right below the top level. Like there's some of them, as you said, have two-way contracts. From
Yeah.
a coaching and like a personality, do you notice they're very similar to say the kids you work here? Like they're just good. The masses are good because anytime we hear anything in the news, it's always like a negative, but it's like every experience I've had with pro athletes that I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot, is that they're actually beauties. Like they're really, most of
Yeah.
them are really good human beings, and
Hmm.
like they give back. Like you saw some of the guys maybe I brought in, and like this summer I had a NHL hockey athlete, and I was working with a pro rugby team, and he came out and watched the kids who were working out at UBC because they were playing on this
Yeah,
team. Like they're just like he didn't have to do that, right? Like, and they're
for
just I
sure.
find a lot of them just love sports and love what they're
Yeah.
doing. And I just wonder if you see a big parallel there, or is it more like laser focused and or are they just bigger kids that make money now?
No, I think it's 50-50. I
Yeah.
think for sure there's some big kids that make more money than I'll ever see
Yeah.
in my life, but um and I think you see this in
Yeah.
any weight room, any team, there's always those two, three that are like you see them do their job and you see them work and you're like, okay, these people are professionals. Like this is you clock into work, you do your thing, and you love not only do you love what you do, but you appreciate the people around you. And you understand their role in your development and your performance. And we definitely had a few of those on the team for sure. And it was really eye-opening for me, not coming from that environment and kind of being used to college kids and being used to the wishy-washiness of it and
Yep.
um, coming into here and seeing how diligent they are and how much every little piece matters, I think was huge. And again, like the guys that come in and do their work and are asking questions and are poking and prodding on at how to get better every day, like those are the guys that are, you know, asking you how your weekend was or what did you do on your off day, like the ones that really care about the team as a whole, and that team includes us. And I think that they understand that. And um yeah, it was awesome on the men's side. I'm excited to see what it looks like on the women's side. But yeah, you spend so much time with these people, right? So it's very much a family atmosphere, family environment, and it's important to be a part of an organization that values that as well.
Agreed. I think that goes a
Mhm.
long way. Um,
Huge.
Kind of switching then gears, like, can you tell us a little bit about like your current staff? Like
Mhm.
maybe we'll stay the with the Trailblazers just for now, because I'm sure you haven't met everybody in the new one.
Yeah.
So, like you came from, you and Ryan and maybe one other contractor and like a couple ATs to like, what do
Yeah.
you have now as an example?
Hmm.
And your
So like
ISP.
so yeah, for example, we have 13 guys on a roster, and there's me as a strength coach, there's a head and assistant athletic therapist, there's a sports psychologist, there's a dietitian, um, and then team doctors. Like those kind of
Yeah.
contracts come in and out. Um, but yeah, it's really when you think of coach to athlete ratio or practitioner to athlete ratio, it's just it frees up so much time, and it really allows you to do your job with each and every athlete. I think that that's the biggest thing that we don't get when we're at the college level is that there just isn't enough of us to go around, and you don't get that quality time with them one on one to really, like I said, solve those problems and work through things. So I think that's a really special part of being at the professional level. And it was, again, something that I really wanted to get back to. Um,
Makes it a little easier, I'm sure, too, when you have to return someone to play and you don't have to drive 45 minutes from soccer field to where they get their treatment
yeah,
done to watch a treatment, or like if you want
yeah.
to get a quick manip or mob or something before you do a certain
Hmm.
movement, you have someone in the same building. I mean, that's the reality of the difference between pro and Canadian universities.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean like even just, the flow of your day, like the guys come in, they come into the kitchen, they eat their breakfast, that flows right into the training room, they get therapy, they get taped up, they that flows right into the gym. They do their pre-work with me, they lift, they go right onto the court. Like it just
Yeah, feng
it's set
shui.
up. They're set up for success. Yeah, feng
Yeah,
shui.
that's right.
Um, but it also makes our lives easier. Like they have to walk through my space before they get onto the court. So it's,
Right.
forced interactions, even if,
Yep.
they try and avoid me as much as possible and don't want to lift, that'll
Yeah.
never go away.
Yeah.
Um,
Not in
but
basketball.
yeah, not in basketball. So yeah, it's again like just so set up for success. And um, there really isn't any breakages there. Everything is all together. Your front office people are all there. Your obviously your players, your H&P staff, your coaches, everyone is forced to interact with each other all the time. And that can get exhausting sometimes for sure, but it breeds communication. And that's
Absolutely.
the biggest thing.
Yeah. And now, like, this is just a follow up. Like, was it a bit of an eye opener or weird for you to go from like literally no resources to a place that probably has a bigger like snack and juice budget than we would have at any
Literally.
sport team for a year? Like,
Literally.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Like it took me a while to get used to. Like I obviously I know what all the equipment is and I know how to use it, but it's like, okay, this was never a part of my daily life. Like it was never a part of my programming. Like how do I integrate this to make my life easier? Because it never was easy before and now it is. So, um it's surprising how much more of a learning curve there is there than you would think. Even with the simplest things, just because, it was never that easy before. And my
yeah,
mind is spinning trying to think of a way to do this one exercise when, oh, I literally have that machine in the corner. Like nobody uses it. Right. So,
yeah.
I think that took some getting used to, but, you know, to that point, now going from the NBA to the WNBA, it's like we're dropping resources now a little bit. They're not there yet completely. Like we don't have our own facility, we don't have a dietitian in house. There's not food on site. Like it changes every environment that you're in, and I think especially with my you know experience in collegiate Canadian sport, I think that it's only going to help me even more in this environment now where, these top athletes, top 1% again of their sport, don't have the luxuries that maybe their male counterparts have. So being able to create an environment that's just as easy for them, I think is one of my big goals this year.
I think you can still find ways to support. Like, the reason I asked that question and you answered it, plus my follow up, which was going to be just like, do you see the value in starting with nothing? But at the end of the day, if you have nothing and you've honed your coaching skills to the point where the athletes feel loved and they know you give, probably shouldn't have
Mm.
said that on here, but they know you care if someone knows
We
how
know
to
who
edit
you
this.
are.
Yeah, well, you do. Um, so, um, like, I think that moves it dial, and I think we're forced to do
Yeah.
those things more so because we're not in front of our computer the whole time. We're on the floor, we're interacting, we're coaching, we're going to
Mm.
practice, we're going to games, even though it's like a trek, right? Like for us to leave in I mean, for you at TMU, you had to go 45 minutes to be on field with soccer, for example, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not like it's a big deal for me to go to encore with our men's or women's basketball team, but it's still a 15-minute or 10-minute walk and transition time
Mm.
each way that adds to your day when you're already coaching 25 hours a week. So
Mm.
I think that starting with nothing is something that I'm not saying nothing because we have nice enough facilities for what we need. It's just, it's
Yeah,
very different when you literally have to commute to do your job in one day, right? Like it
totally.
changes a
Yeah.
lot. So,
Hmm.
okay, cool. So in your time, Jill, you've kind of, I mean, so when did you start at Brock? So we're like 10 years now, probably nine.
2016.
Yeah, so we're almost 10 years.
Am I
So
old?
no, you're not old. I'm old because
Okay.
I've done this for longer than you've been alive. So you're not old. You don't have to worry about being old yet.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
yeah. um, you've probably developed a pretty vast network between everything. Do you
Mhm.
still reach out to old, I know like we mentioned it earlier with me, but like do you still talk to your fellow like grad assistants or undergrads or Steve or Vicky or Dave or anyone at TMU?
Totally.
Yeah. Do you think there's still
Yeah,
value in maintaining those connections?
absolutely. Yeah, it's oh mother oh, sorry.
Right.
Um, absolutely. Like it's we are in a people's business. Like we are constantly surrounded by people, and it's not like anybody is, and maybe I'm looking at this too small, but nobody's reinventing the wheel. No one, there isn't something that somebody else hasn't seen. So to be able to use my network, and I'm so grateful for the people that I have been around the past 8 9 years, and they hold so much value to me, and their experiences hold so much value to me. um it would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't utilize that. So I know that I have that background, and I can draw on those people when I need to. And I only hope that I can do the same thing for, a younger coach in the future. And there's a million and two things that you could, find on social media, and there's a lot of great information. There's a lot of not great information. But I think something that I will always go back to is, calling up you or calling up Vicky, or Jamil calls me like every week. Like it just, we talk all the time. So it's nice to talk to other people that have gone through the same things that you're going through, and especially to the, part where, we're all trying to find a job, and everyone's getting rejected, and it's hard, and
It's your network,
that
your social, your support network too, right? It's not
yeah,
just about how do you do this, how do you do that. It's like this sucked. How did you
yeah,
deal with it? Yeah.
yeah, like that part's huge. So I think that was really important to me, at least the past year, staying in contact with everyone, to the best of my ability. I'm actually so bad at it, but um
Well, you're
I do
also
my
quite busy.
best.
Yeah, but that's all
Yeah.
like I really it does warm my cold dead heart to know that you guys still talk and I know that like my grad assistants from my first year still talk and we all
Yeah.
support each other like if Jeremy's got his gym and like a bunch of them who are keen on learning how to Olympic lift would go support Jer and like if I called Jer to come talk to my class I know he would do it in a heartbeat like they just
Hmm.
feel the need to give back which is not because
Totally.
they feel like they owe us something it's because they're just good humans and we surround ourselves with good people as best we can and this is
Hmm.
what I hope for anyway as the head and so that makes
Yeah.
me really proud to know that you guys do that as well.
Well,
um
and you and Amanda and Joe have always perpetuated that. So, as much as we're good people too, it was really you guys leading by example, and Steve and Vicky and Dave and Taylor are all the same way up at Brock, and Ryan's been the same way since I left TMU. So I think it's such a small community that we have, and we all know that we have to have each other's backs. And I think that that's only amplifying, down to the next generation of coaches that are coming up. Um, and I really think it's going to set us up for success.
Totally. And like now that you're if you look back like retrospectively what would you give advice to 18-year-old Jill in her first year at Brock? Anything that you would look back on and recommend to yourself or to someone who's just starting out who's wants to get into a next level?
I don't think so. I don't think I would tell myself anything. I think I would say, figure it out. Like it's gonna happen how it happens. And, I think for me, I knew pretty early on that this is what I wanted to do. And it was by design. I tried a lot of things, and I wanted to get as much exposure before I kind of made that decision. But I think that, you know, that set me up for, saying yes to a lot of things. And I think that's a major part of it is, sometimes you might not know if this is, the right thing to do, or if it's going to be the opportunity that you've always dreamed of or whatever. But looking at the opportunity for what it is and making a decision off of that, like, is this going to add to my, coaching toolbox? Like, is it going to give me skills that I don't already have? Okay, yeah, I'm going to take that even if it's in Sault Ste. Marie, or, like being willing to leave my, little bubble, whether that was in St. Catharines or in Vancouver, being able to step outside of that bubble and knowing that my network's going to have my back, and being able to draw on them, but ultimately, following the opportunity and allowing that to kind of guide me through my career is really how I got here. And it's, I think, how young coaches like myself find success early, is just that willingness to sacrifice things that you need to sacrifice.
I mean, the unfortunate reality as a Canadian S&C is there's limited jobs, right? Like there's
Totally.
never ending jobs, but there's limited
Hmm.
in doing what you want to do. Like I really love what I do still, and that's why I'm still doing it. And I
Hmm.
love the chaos and the volume that I deal with. That's a skill set that I've developed over time that I've always been passionate about. But
Hmm.
I find that and I traveled early on when I was young for work a lot, when I was working with
Hmm.
national teams and doing all those things. And I look back and I think, holy, that travel was like probably more impactful than any book I've read or anything else. And just meeting new
Totally.
people has been such an eye opener. But like getting out of that comfort zone, the first move from Brock to UBC had to be tough. And then it should get
Huge.
easier as you go, but it's always there, right? Like, um,
Maybe it
well,
gets easier.
you're a little luckier. Like when I went to school, we didn't have Zoom, right? Like I don't even know if Skype was
Yeah.
around, to be honest with you. We just started getting email when I was just graduating. So it was
Yeah.
a little different time. So it made it hard, and long distance was
Totally.
freaking expensive, right? Like so like it's at
Hmm.
least we have the ability to jump on a call and do or a Zoom or FaceTime and all that. So that definitely
Totally.
helped. So
Huge.
um and when you were in your like at TMU, did you ever travel with the teams?
I only went to like nationals. So
Okay.
men's soccer made nationals the first year I was there, so I went there with them. But outside of that, I traveled once with cheerleading, I think, pre-COVID.
Okay.
And that's it. Like,
Okay.
and now, from January to now, I've been on 32 flights this year. So it's like, what a change that
And
was.
do you guys fly commercial or do you have a
G League, we fly commercial, and then
oh
for the W, we charter.
yeah, charter is the way to go.
Yeah.
Someone who's traveled a lot, not charter. Yeah, so do you notice the difference like from a preparedness stance for your athletes? Like I know now, I mean you haven't traveled with Sparks yet, but like how does a 7-footer fit in a normal size plane when I'm six
Well,
five and I'm ruined for a month after a long flight?
literally, I was just gonna say, I was like, imagine traveling commercial with like 3 7-footers. Um, I think when it comes to that, it's, our ops people do the absolute best that they can to get those guys exit rows and,
Yeah.
yeah, aisles, like seats that make them comfortable. And, when that doesn't happen, as a staff, we're trying to figure it out like in the moment. Like we're all boarding the plane and everyone's like, oh, you have the exit or you have an aisle, like let's switch, like let's make this
Yeah.
easier for these guys, because it really does
Yeah.
suck. And sometimes they don't even notice like how much the travel has an effect on their body. Like I remember one athlete, I think he was like 6'5" or 6'6", something like that, but a taller shooting guard. And he said, Jill, like I'm having this back pain. And I'm like, okay, well, when did it start? And he was like, oh, after that flight to Iowa. And I was like, yeah, no, I was like 5 hours away from here.
Yeah.
And, you were in the middle seat, or you were,
Yeah.
or, yo, no, I think this kid liked to sit on the window side. And I'm like, you're like
It's
crunched up
your
on the window
yeah.
side. Yeah. And I was like, let's foam roll, let's release, glute med, let's take care of your hip flexors, like stuff like that. And it's things that I think they don't think about, that we have such an awareness for, and we do our best to make sure that things go smoothly for them. But uh, yeah, it's a grind. It's a grind for them for sure. The
I
travel
think
is a grind in general.
I think Ben Barami said he's on the road 190 days this year with the
Yeah.
Raptors, right? Like Travel is something that like I value strength coaches traveling when they can afford it. So like I'll travel with
Hmm.
football. Um, and it's only terrible when they go alphabetically and like I used to get my seat and I'd look over at Giovanni. You remember Gio, right? Like he's
Yeah,
monster. He's 6'8" and plays in the NFL now, and his name was right before mine, so we'd always get stuck sitting beside each
that's
other. Or but
horrific.
even in the same row, I was even worried about like that amount of beef on one side of the plane, like because
Literally.
we had some big old linemen. I'm like, this is terrible for this kid, and like he's just crammed in this, like he makes me look small, as you remember, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is torture for this kid. So like we always had plans to like, and
Hmm.
the coach is really supportive. Okay, Joe's taking him for a walk or getting him fresh air when we didn't get in super late, or like I'm running an extra like mobility activation type session that night or in the morning when we get up just to get them
Hmm.
moving. I know how it feels being one of those people who doesn't fit in normal things. So
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it was definitely interesting, and there's the oohs and ahs when we're walking through
yeah.
the airport, and nobody knows who you actually are or what you do, but it's, it's this guy is so tall, blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, like imagine how he feels in this small ass plane.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah,
And do you guys, so now when you travel, like obviously if you can travel multiple times in a week and be on the road for a period of time, what's the longest you've been
totally.
away?
Think, well, there was a period of time where we went from Iowa to All-Star break. And then after All-Star break, we also had a trip. So that was a really long travel, but I got a bit of a break in between. But travel with no break was probably 12 days, was our longest. And that takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
Like it is, and as coaches, like, I always do my best to show up as the same person every day. Like, I don't want to make my environment unpredictable for the athletes coming into my space. Just it's an unsafe feeling, and you know, I don't want to ever add that stress to them. So, you know, it only makes it more important for me to take care of myself, and make sure that I'm in the right headspace. I'm getting enough sleep. I'm working out myself. I'm doing this and doing that to be able to come into the gym and, be present and be with them, fully when they're doing their work with me. And travel makes that harder, obviously. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I don't think people quite understand that, like grasp, like being a professional strength coach or anything is a different it's such a different animal compared to anything else. Even if you have,
really.
it doesn't matter if you're away for 12 days from your friends, family, and your life, that's always tough no matter what. Then you add in that
Mhm.
you're a giant and you don't fit into normal stuff. So you've got a long bus ride, you've got this, you're cramped into a plane. Like I'm hoping you guys stay in good enough hotels that your feet aren't hanging off the end like I've had. Like
Mhm.
those things make a big difference in having the ability to do that. But what I wanted to touch on, and I learned this from coaching individual sports, when I was a wrestling coach, like you'd be there from 10 till 10, and then the kids have to get up the next morning and do it again. And we are just bagged by the end of the day because you have every single one of those highs and lows that go on. And in a sport
Mhm.
like that, where it's not like just a 2 hour, 3 hour game where you have some ups and downs. It's like just roller coaster the whole day. And emotionally, you're just cooked by the end. And then someone gets hurt or someone who you didn't think thrives. Like it's just so polar extremes on the emotions
Totally.
that run. So like, what do you do to cope with that? Do you read? Do you meditate? Do you yoga? Do you drink and do you like drugs to put yourself to sleep? Like, how do you manage that?
I this season I was a big reader. I took my Kindle everywhere. It's enticing to do work on the plane, but I think I really used that time to unplug a little bit. So I read like 6 or 7 books this season.
Oh,
So
good,
really, really locked in on that. And not workbooks, like
good.
fantasy books and fiction books. Like I want to escape in my brain. Like I don't want to read the quadrant system. Like I want to actually enjoy my time. So not to say that's not enjoyable, but yeah, I think it's really, for me, it's about that escape. And to me, sleep is everything. Like I need to sleep. I need 8, 9 hours to be a functioning human.
In
And
one day?
oh, yes, I need it.
No, and I
Another
agree.
big, yeah,
Our kids
yeah,
need the athletes need it too, right? Like, and if you prioritize it,
absolutely,
you have to. It's hard to be the wounded healer, right? Like if you're always
for sure.
relying on 9 coffees a day to get yourself going in the morning, I don't know that that's a good alternative to actually figuring out how
Totally.
to get to sleep. So,
Totally, totally. And the other thing that kept me going this season was staff workouts. So
uh,
we worked out as a staff all the time on the road together. We did it when we were at home. I did it when I was at TMU. Like, I think having that togetherness and doing something productive in that hour or 30 minutes that you're, dedicated to being in the gym, I think was a lifesaver. And I'm sure the staff with the Remix would say that, and I think the staff at Team U would say that. It's a massive, I think, part of it, and you can lose yourself so much when you're in these professional seasons, especially because there's food everywhere, and like we're feeding athletes that are working their ass off, and I work my ass off too, but not,
no,
I'm
not
not
physically.
running.
Yeah,
No, not physically. I'm not running 6 miles in a game or whatever. So it's, that part of it too is, I think, a funny learning curve. But yeah, all that said, I think you need to have those tools and you need to know what makes you feel good, especially when you're on those long haul
but
travel weeks.
no one should feel guilty about reading a book that they enjoy or a workbook. Like I somehow circle everything back to what I do for a living, but I haven't read
Love.
anything that's I would say is like an S&C book in probably 2 or 3 years. 90% of what I
Yeah.
draw from is like business, maybe something that happened for historical, something like that, because
Hmm.
there's so many parallels. Nothing really
For
changes, and
sure.
hearing a perspective on like preparedness from something that's a text that's 300 years old to me is
Hmm.
like it's just reaffirming to me that there's nothing new, right? Other than things
Absolutely.
that are illegal in this day and age,
Totally.
there's nothing that's that groundbreaking. And so getting to unplug and not think about your job for a period of time, and I'm proud of you for doing the workouts too, because I think that's one of the first things that goes, even though like we work in a gym and it's like
Oh my
the
God.
last thing it's so hard to like be at the end of the day and you have 300 emails and 10 programs to get caught up to take time for
Hmm.
yourself. So by doing a group setting, and that's what we started doing when I
I
first
remember
started.
Amanda would
Yeah,
do it all the time. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah. So we get the staff, but like just so they can be involved in it too, right? Like they're part of our
Totally.
team and they're also
Yeah.
people that we always have to draw on. So bringing in people outside of the department, like in our recreation department would come over, and it's just great for us to build relationships with people we don't normally
Hmm.
get to spend time with. So I see the value in that.
Totally. For
So
sure, for sure. And for us, like our athletes saw it as well. And I think, the feedback that we got throughout the season, and this is kudos to all of our general manager, our coach, everything from that team in Portland. They see the togetherness and they want to be a part of it. So
nice.
I think at a professional level, that's a massive thing as well.
Cool. We're getting close to time, Jill. I'm going to kind of wrap up a little bit, but I want to ask, is there
Okay.
anything as like um so like you've done this for a period of time now and in a male dominated sport, is there anything that you've gone through that was like you found was like, oh, I never had a problem with this but other people have, or this was absolutely terrible at this stage, or anything like between each level? Like you've had a lot of experiences in that 10 years. Was there ever a
Hmm.
time where you thought I would never recommend this to another woman?
What a question, Joe.
Yeah, I had to finish with something
Um,
hard.
That's funny. I think as a woman in a really male-dominated field, when you're interviewing and you're looking for a job, it's so important to be a part of an organization that understands that you're a minority in this space and that, you know, you're going to be surrounded by a bunch of dudes and, we're going to make this a little bit better for you, or like here are these resources, here's this, here's a separate change room, here's you know, bathrooms that you can use during the game that like is separate from the guys' bathrooms. Like I think that is so important, and you can suss that out during the interview process. And if I could give any advice, as a young woman, if you have any questions or if there is ever anything that comes to mind pertaining to this topic, like ask about it, like poke and prod these questions with these organizations at the beginning. And, if for whatever reason the job doesn't go your way and you think that that maybe could have been a reason because you were being too harsh on that, you wouldn't have been wanted to be a part of that organization anyway, be, and this goes for everyone, not just women, but be a part of an organization that cares about you as a person and um understands where you're coming from and will make things, as seamless as possible because, it really is, it does have a big impact. And there was a lot of times in my career where I felt like the odd one out and I felt that I didn't belong in the spaces that I was in. And I think that surrounding myself with people that took that feeling away or didn't make me feel that way, I think is the reason that I'm here. And it definitely has made me stronger. And I definitely have thick skin now. And I think it will only continue to grow. But so will female strength coaches. Like we will continue to multiply in numbers and we'll get to a point where we're not the odd ones out. And I think that it will, yeah, just more positive experiences and organizations that value having women around, I think will only start to increase. And yeah, but take up space and own whatever room that you're in, I think is the advice that I could give.
You were the first woman in NBA or G League, right? Strength
Yeah,
conditioning coach. Okay,
not
that's
the
a
first. I don't know
no
if I was the first woman, but I was the only female strength coach
only.
last year. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously that's different.
Yeah.
And that pat on the back to you because you earned every
Thank
freaking
you.
step of this, so you should be proud of that.
Yeah.
Did you, is there anything you could see in terms of the benefit? Like, I really value my female staff because you know me enough to know why I should have someone that's not dead inside, but also like just brings different lens to
Yeah.
what they're doing. And like I see the interactions, how some guys just feel more comfortable talking to a woman than they do. Some only feel more comfortable talking to a guy. I mean, a lot of it has to do with
Totally.
familial backgrounds and everything like that. But is there
Yeah.
something that you've noticed that has been a little easier than maybe other people have said, oh, I can't get this done? And because like I struggle at times with some of our young men with like getting that same connection because I grew up, I'm not
Yeah.
anywhere near their age group anymore, right? And so I see
Yeah.
value of one surrounding myself with people who are much younger and smarter than me, but
Hmm.
also like just different outlooks on life. And it's I
Hmm.
see the value, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that you maybe noticed. I mean, the NBA would be very similar to the NFL or any other pro organization for that matter, where
Totally.
there's not a lot, which is surprising because I know tons of unreal women's strength coaches and coaches for that
Mm.
matter. So just curious if there's like anything stand out to you that was of benefit or you noted as a benefit.
I think a general rule of thumb before I get into the benefits of hiring and employing women, I think people that just want to hire their buddies like don't actually want to get better and they probably just want to surround themselves with people that they don't think are smarter than they are. And it's a recipe for disaster. And it's never been an environment that I've been a part of. Like I don't fit that build. So um yeah, like being able to be a part of, your staff, Joe, and Steve's staff, I think has, just put such a good example in my head of what I want and what I know I can be a part of. Um, but the benefits, I think, you hit the nail on the head. Like it's, having that different perspective. Like so much happens throughout the season. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of, ups and downs. And, not to say that men aren't emotionally intelligent, but like it's a natural thing that at least for me, it's a natural thing that comes to me. It's a massive part of my coaching strategy, and it helps me connect with my athletes and build relationships with my athletes. And again, not to say that men can't do that, but it's second nature for us. And I think that it is, and again, I'm speaking super general here, but um I think that it just adds a layer of connectivity to between you and your athlete. And um, I think when it's used appropriately and it's, again, in a safe space, it enhances their environment, and, it allows them to, you know, access that maybe other 1% of, give that they could give on that day. So um yeah, I think there's endless positives and endless reasons why, hiring a woman should never be an issue, um, that we can only add to the space and make it better.
I bring it up because like I've always been involved with women's sport. Like I was one of the first women's wrestling and rugby coaches when it first
Hmm.
became like it wasn't a thing, and I didn't understand why anyone cared. Like I'm like, why wouldn't we want
Yeah.
women doing this sport? And I learned more in that time about my lack of emotional intelligence than any book or any podcast or anything I can ever
Yeah.
imagine as someone who isn't really super emotional and
Hmm.
somewhat intimidating back then, probably more so than I am now.
Hmm.
I learned so much in that, but I learned the value because a lot of them came back to coach with us because they had a positive experience in spite of me being dead inside and maybe a bit harsher than I probably should have been at the time, but I learned. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's not about men, women, or black, white, or any other ethnicity. It's about getting the right people for the right job, but also having
Totally.
that diverse portfolio of people so that people have someone they connect with. So even if you don't like me and you're on the football team, they have Nestor. They have like they
Yeah.
can go to Alexa or they can go to Christina or any one of our graduate assistants and feel that they're going to get the same service level regardless. And if your
Yeah.
comfort level is going to get you to tell me that you're not having a good day today, or your back is sore, or your shoulder's sore, and you're afraid to tell me and you tell him, then I'm going to help
Hmm.
him get through it. And I really think that value is there. Um, and having different perspectives on everything we do. The science and everything we do isn't changing. So, but hearing a
Yeah.
different voice is valuable.
Huge. The diversity, whether it's gender diversity or racial diversity, it's a game changer, and I think it'll only start to become more important. And I think that, whatever organizations aren't adopting that same mindset are going to be left behind, and rightfully so.
Yeah, let's hope. So awesome. Thank you, Gillian. And I will follow up once I have everything cut and stuff. On behalf
Yay!
of the Canadian Strength and Conditioning Association, thank you for your time.